I have my ups and downs, just like anybody else.
Maybe more than anybody else.
I can be hard to figure out.
And I like my privacy.
I don't want you looking over my shoulder all the time.
But you know your kid better than anybody else. And if you think he's acting different than usual...
Acting really down, crying all the time for no good reason.
Or getting really mad.
Not able to sleep, or sleeping too much.
Shutting her friends out or giving her stuff away.
Acting reckless, drinking, using drugs, staying out late.
Suddenly not doing stuff he used to love.
Or doing stuff that's just not like him.
It might be nothing to worry about. It might just be high school.
Or it might be something more. He might be depressed.
Not just feeling down, really depressed.
It might be that your kid is thinking about killing himself.
It happens. More than you think. More than it should.
And people say, I had no idea.
I thought it was just a phase he was going through.
I never thought she'd do it.
I wish he'd come to me.
I wish he'd said
I
something.
wish I'd said something.
When it's too late. So if you think your kid's acting different, if she seems like a different person, say something.
Say, what's wrong? How can I help?
And ask straight out. Are you thinking about killing yourself?
It doesn't hurt to ask. In fact, it helps.
When people are thinking about killing themselves, they want somebody to ask.
They want somebody to care.
Maybe you're afraid you'll make it worse if you ask. Like, you'll put the idea in their head.
Believe me, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't hurt to ask.
In fact, the best way to keep a teenager from killing herself is to ask, are you thinking about killing yourself?
And what if they say yes?
Or maybe.
Or sometimes,
Well, here's what you don't say.
That's crazy.
Don't be such a drama queen.
you're making too much of this.
That boy's not worth killing
Yourself.
over.
That's not going to solve anything.
You're just trying to get attention.
You're not going to kill yourself.
What you do say is,
I'm sorry you're feeling so bad.
How can I help?
We'll get through this together.
Let's keep you safe.
A lot of people think about killing themselves. Adults and kids.
most of them never try it, but some of them do. So if your kid says,
I'd be better off dead.
I can't live with
I'm
this.
gonna kill myself,
Take her seriously. Find someone she can talk to about it. Someone who knows how to help.
Sometimes kids want to kill themselves because something happened. A breakup, a failure.
But sometimes it goes deeper, and it's not going to go away by itself.
Get some help. Talk to your doctor.
Or a counselor at school.
Or your minister.
but don't just let it drop.
And make sure that your kid always has someone to turn to. Someone he trusts.
Make a list together right then. 3, 4, 5 names.
Put a suicide hotline number on there too.
Have him keep that list in his wallet, so he always knows where to turn.
Make sure your home is safe.
If you have pills she could use to hurt herself, lock them up.
If you have a gun, don't just lock it up. Get it out of the house. The bullets, too.
And one more thing. If you think your kid might be about to hurt himself, don't leave him alone.
Take him to the emergency room.
Call 911 if you have to.
We all have our ups and downs, but sometimes it's more than that.
If you think something's wrong, the only way to find out is to ask.
Ask straight out. Are you thinking about killing yourself?
Don't wait until you're sure. Trust your gut.
Because it never hurts to ask.
And it can make a big difference.
All the difference.
In your kid's life.
Hey, first and foremost, I want to thank the Mayo Clinic for putting that together. It's huge for me. It's huge for you guys here supporting my guest tonight. So I'm gonna bring her in. I'm gonna bring in Ronna, and we're gonna get this thing going. Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
So we just had like 15 minutes to catch up for the last 30 years that we've not
Something
talked,
like that, yeah.
right? And how shitty is it that this is what brings us together, but in a
Yeah,
good way.
it's absolutely. It's kind of, it's something nobody should have to go through. But I think as you are someone that experiences either suicide or mental health issues, you realize very quickly there's a whole ton of people around you that have either dealt it or maybe experiencing some of the same things.
Do you feel like we're kind of like on the island of misfit toys? Like we're all just on the island of misfit toys and we don't realize it? Like we're not willing to reach out and just say, dude, I'm missing a button, or like, hey, my engine's broke, or I don't have any batteries. Like, that's the way people ask me, like, how do you equate it to like mental health and mental illness in the world? And I just say everybody knows somebody that suffers from it. And yeah, I mean, you may have it all together, but I guarantee you at some point in time, you're going to struggle. At some point in time, we all struggle with something. And
We're,
it's those points in times where we just we do what we do. So let's just go through the list of people that are hanging out here. Steven, that's who's that to you?
that is my son-in-law. He's pretty neat.
Oh, cool. So I'm guessing he's married to your daughter.
He is Taya. Yep.
Lucky man, isn't he?
And they make really, really cute kids. If you see my Facebook, you will know.
Yeah, there's Timber. That's my girl right there saying hi, just showing the love.
Hello.
Steven, I don't know who that guy is. Do you know who that guy is?
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Deidre, Taya, right? That's
That
how you say that?
Taya, yep, that's my
Taya.
daughter.
Yeah.
And Deirdre is my niece, joining us from, I believe she's in Queens, New York.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah,
Yonkers.
yep.
I see. I got to get out of the wrestling. So now that we've got the small talk out of the way, let's kind of get to the man of the hour. Like, we're here for James. Like, that's who we're talking about.
100%. Yeah.
What do
He
you
was,
miss the most?
oh my gosh, his laughter. I think anybody that you talk to will tell you they miss his laughter. This will surprise you because you've known me since junior high, but he was really demented in his sense of humor.
Is that why we got along so well?
It is. It is. I've often said that James proved nurture versus nature for me.
Right.
Because, he wasn't my biological kid, but he was my kid, and there was zero question about it. He acted just like me, which could be good or bad. But it, really his laughter. Sean and I will talk about his room was right next door to where I'm sitting, which is right underneath our living room. And he was big into Halo on Xbox. And we would be sitting upstairs watching TV doing something, and you'd just hear this like guttural scream or this like gigantic laugh.
Either or.
And you knew either he messed something up or someone messed up on his live video game, or, he just saw something that was absolutely hilarious. And there was just, he couldn't laugh. And you, like, when he laughed, you had to smile. There was no way not to.
When did you know he was starting to struggle? At what point in time as he grew up? When we're talking specifically about kids, what were the warning signs, or what were things that you started to look back on your childhood and how you grew up and things, and like start to correlate, like I think something's going on. I just don't know exactly what it is.
So there was actually a life event when James was 12 that triggered it. And I won't go into detail about that, but no 12-year-old should have had to face what he had to face. And it was a big deal, just like family wise too, because it involved my husband's children. And so there was like this split that happened. And even though we were able to say, to reassure James, like, none of this is your fault, I think he always carried a little bit of guilt and a whole lot of anger. He was in counseling. We'd kind of done counseling off and on before that time, but when that happened, he started counseling, and we got him in with someone, and he stayed with her until he went to college. He'd been working with this gal for almost 7 years, just really trying to deal with not only that situation, but, all of my children were adopted. And so they all have this sense of what was wrong with me, why couldn't I have stayed with my family? What was wrong with me? And they internalized that. And I will tell you that as a foster mom, from the very beginning, I was honest with my kids and about the situation. And their biological mom is someone who is now my family and has been for years. She did what we both felt was best for those kids by leaving them with me.
Right.
You know, and so
that's a difficult choice. Like that's a really,
I couldn't do it.
really, it's a really hard choice to have to make as a parent. And my,
100%.
not to really, but mine is a little bit different where I won't say I consciously abandoned my kids, but I got into a relationship that was controlling in a lot of ways. And I did abandon them. And that's, I mean, that's a hard thing for any kid to have to deal with at any age. I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, mom just had, your dad's gone. My mom just had surgery. It's mortality is real, but as a kid, it's scary. It's scary.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying. And, you know, he just like, I know all three of my children struggled with that at some point. You know, all of them were counseling was a big thing. You know, my undergrad degree essentially was in psychology, and so I'm very aware and very conscious of how, you know, how that stuff affects. And so I'm watching for it. Plus, it's something, you know, as I told you earlier, I've dealt with. You know, I was diagnosed, I think, with major depressive order when I was 21, and so it's something I've dealt with my adult life.
Right. How, when you talk about James and growing up, I mean, obviously he's struggling in his years as he got older. Like that's really why we're here. Is there, and there's no signs when I decided to take my life the second time. Like the first time, and I don't know how many people, this might be the first time a lot of people ever hear this, but there was a time that was 16 and brought us, 15 and brought us. And I had my uncle's rifle, and I just wanted to go. Like it was time to go. And I put the barrel in my mouth. That's why I have a hard time going to the dentist, because that metal in my mouth, I immediately go to that barrel, and it's really hard.
Absolutely.
It's so, and it got to a point to where I cocked it, I pulled it, I hit the trigger, and it clicked. It didn't go off. And I never shared that with anybody forever. Like it's one of those things I struggled with for the longest time. Like I literally made that decision, but the decision wasn't able to be made for myself. So both times I did this, it was literally like I wanted to check out. Like I didn't care who I told, I didn't care who I was around, I didn't care what was going on, I didn't care who it affected. I had been in, and I put this up here so people can, when I say this, it makes sense. Like the more emotional pain that I felt, it piled on, and it got to a point to where the physicality of feeling that pain, I no longer wanted to feel. And there was no relief in alcohol. There was no relief in drugs. There was no relief in counseling. There was no relief in sex. There was no relief in money. There was no relief in any of this, like none of it. And it wasn't a rash decision. I mean, I go back and I think about it, and I think that's kind of what I want to ask you is we had a yard sale, and I sold a lot of stuff that I would never have gotten rid of. And I think I did it subconsciously in a lot of ways. And I think of the things like I knew I wanted people to buy things and to have things and to do things of mine before I left. And as I look back at it, it was months and months and months. So when you, in retrospect, and I know this is going to be a shitty, tough question, and I love you for it. Like when you look back now, I mean, it's almost a year. We're coming up on a year. Do you feel guilt? Do you feel like you should have seen it? Do you feel like you look back and you see, God damn it, like I saw that, I saw this, I saw that, I went to school for it. Why the fuck didn't I figure this out?
100%. Sorry. I brought Kleenex. I'm prepared.
I got the wine. It's just hidden.
You're too far away. So in December, he was in a relationship, and it wasn't wasn't a great relationship. I didn't understand how messy it was at the time. But so James was gay. He came out freshman year, maybe freshman or sophomore
In
year.
high
I
school.
can't remember. Yeah. And I
Okay.
remember,
That's
I
difficult.
can
That's hard.
remember the moment. Oh, I can remember the moment he told me. He had talked to me previously about this kid and said, I remember him showing me a picture and I'm like, isn't that the gayest outfit you've ever seen? And then after that, he starts talking about this kid a lot. And so finally one day I was in the next room and I'm standing there looking at him and I'm like, James, are you trying to tell me that you're gay? And he's like, what if I am? And I'm like,
What if
well,
you
then
are?
I'm like, I'm going to love you the same as I did right before I asked that question. And so, but this child had, this person that he was seeing, their home life was not, at least, I guess what I should say is at least what was projected to us, their home life was not great. And so when things kind of blew up at Christmas, we decided to take this child in. And that is probably what I have the most guilt for. Uh-oh, are you still there? It's kind of frozen on my end. Hang in there, guys. I'm sure he'll be right back.
That's literally me just leaving you alone. Like that's literally like there was a huge lightning strike out here and it knocked everything out. So it's amazing that you were able to
Oh
hold
my
that.
goodness.
It's amazing you were able to hold that the entire time. So good job. You're hired.
Thanks.
You're hired.
Okay. Woo.
There's a comedy relief right there. I could hear you. I
Right?
just couldn't. And then you're like, oh my God, he's gone. And I'm on this all by myself and I don't know what to do.
I figured you'd be back. I figured you wouldn't leave me hanging. But yeah, I mean, I think, when you talk about guilt, I think that's where both my husband and I struggle because we thought we were doing, and we did it in part because James was begging us to, like, I'm really worried about this person. Please, please take them in. And we prayed about it. We talked about it. We went back and forth, and finally we decided, okay, we'll do it. And it was during that time that we realized, wow, this relationship is not good. And I talked with both of them. I'd just be like, okay, guys, like, here's what you're doing wrong. Here's what you're doing wrong. Like, let's try to figure this out, or just leave each other alone and it'll be okay.
So do you feel like do you feel like it was more trying to fit into somebody's frame of what it could be and then having to deal with that disappointment of not being what somebody wanted in a relationship?
100%.
Do you feel
100%.
do you feel like I know, I'm sure he trusted you. I'm sure he talked to you on a regular basis. I'm sure you guys shared more than anything you ever thought you could have shared with another human being. I'm sure you guys were extremely close. Like,
We were.
I'm just assuming that. But
We were.
I can almost guarantee you, like, I just wish those are those questions you want to ask. Like, at what point in time did that thought process become reality for him? Like, could you tell? Could you see a transition? Could you see? I guess that's the meat and potatoes. Like,
yeah.
When did you know that, hey, there's seriously something going on, and it's just above my head?
As he was transitioning to college, because he had just graduated, was transitioning to college, and he got into this really, like, I can do this on my own, Mom. I don't need your help. You don't need to be in my crap. As he was registering for college. Well, by doing that, he missed something really big called the dorm room. And so he ended up on a waiting list. And in the meantime, we had a friend who had an apartment in Laramie, which is, 45 minutes from where James was going to school, but it was a whole lot closer than 120 miles,
Right.
from where we are. And so he was driving back and forth, but he spent a ton of time alone. And I think that time alone, kind of sitting there just stewing on everything that had happened. And then this relationship ended like right at the same time. And it snowballed.
So
It snowballed.
walk me through that day. Like the day.
So I'm actually going to start 2 days before.
Okay.
I'm going to start on a Thursday. So Thursday night, and I got a couple of messages on Facebook, one from one of his best friends here, who was just like, I'm really worried about James. He's not okay. Like, I don't know what's going on, but he's not okay. And he won't talk to me. And for him not to talk to her, like, that to me is like, okay, something's going on. But then like almost immediately after that, I got a message from someone else that I didn't know, but it was very clear they knew James. And like, I know you don't know me, but I'm really worried. And this is 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night. And so I call him and I say, what's going on? And he's like, his depression manifested as anger, which mine always has. And so he was just like fighting mad, and I don't want to talk to you. And I'm like, either talk to me now or I'm getting in the car and driving over there. And he's like, whatever. And he hangs up on me. And so I got in the car and I drove an hour and a half to where he was. And we sat up, I don't know, almost 24 hours, just like talking through all of this stuff that's going through his head. And I tried to get him to go to the hospital, and he was like, no, I don't. So this person he was in a relationship, it's my belief that that person was trying to convince him he was schizophrenic, and he wasn't. He was
Gaslighting?
having
A little gaslighting going on?
absolutely. Okay. But what he was experiencing was normal. Those of us that have dealt with depression, normal thoughts of a depressed person, such as driving down the interstate going, I wonder what would happen if I just drove under that semi.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you've experienced depression, you've had those thoughts,
Yep.
and I told him, I'm like, that's not schizophrenia, honey. That's depression. Well, it came out in that conversation that he hadn't been taking his depression meds for almost a year because he was trying to prove to this individual that he was healthy. And I'm like, you're healthy on the meds.
Can we talk about that for 1 second?
Absolutely.
Can we talk about how unhealthy of a decision that is to not take your medications just because you want to be around or with somebody, and the detriment that has?
It's the reason he's not here. It's the reason he's not here, because if you deal with mental illness and you don't treat it, you are no longer capable of rational thought and action. Like, you start acting off pure instinct if you're not treating the mental illness.
So at that point in time, and correct me, I mean, it's where the thinking goes from our analytical brain to our Neanderthal brain, which is a reactive brain. And where that leads is to non-rational thinking, which is pretty much the whole premise behind what I'm trying to accomplish here. Is, to most people, suicide is irrational. It is a choice that people that are irrational make. But the problem is when you're in that situation, there is no rational thought.
Mm-mm.
There is no
You're not capable of
rationality
it.
in it.
Yep.
You're just in it, and there's shame, and there's worthlessness, and there's burden, and there's so much that goes into that. And I can speak from this because I know I came out on the other side. I was fortunate. I was lucky. I'm not James. I'm not, and it sucks on this end.
It doesn't suck.
Well, it just it's hard. Like, it's hard
Absolutely.
to one, not only be a survivor of somebody that tried to take their life, but two, be a survivor of somebody you try to take your life, but look at those people in the eye all the time, and you get over it, and you start to realize like how lucky you are, and like in an instant, this can be gone. And
Absolutely. I think instant is the key word.
it's irrational thought process. It is when that emotional pain becomes physically manifested to a point where, in my experience, and this is just me speaking from my experience, is I didn't want that pain anymore. I didn't want the burden. I didn't want the shame. I didn't want to have to talk about my feelings anymore. I was done with the pills. I was tired of just dealing with all of it over years and years and years and years and years and years. But the problem is most individuals like me that I've talked to and experienced this with are looking for a pill to take this away. Like, it's never going to happen. There will never be. I was taking 20 pills at one time, almost at a time, sometimes 3 times a day. And it took me almost a decade to get to a point to where, I'm on a couple of medications, but there's so much more that goes into this that when we talk about James and that decision, what I hope people take out of this is that he wasn't James at that point in time. That wasn't the James that people grew to love and to laugh and stuff like that. I think that's the point I want to try and get across, is that it's hard for survivors that actually try to take life, but I think it's even harder for those that have to stay behind and deal with, like, how many times in a day do you think you ask now? It's almost a year. Like, at first it was probably the why question probably came up every 5 minutes, right? Like, why?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Oh, yeah.
So this is going to get messy, maybe. I don't know. It may not. Maybe you got it all out, but like, the grieving process, like, how messy has it been for you? Like, for real?
It's a disaster. Right after it happened, I literally just stopped eating, stopped drinking, stopped, like, I could not function. Trying to figure out, like, I was just with him 2 days ago. We formulated a plan together that night. Because both Sean and I were of the opinion, like, you're not doing well, just come home. Come home, let's get it figured out. But James, being the
hero, it's the hero. It's the hero.
Yeah.
It's the firstborn. You got to take it. You got to do it.
James,
he's the hero.
The hero was like, well, I need to make sure I can transfer my job back, because he loved his job. He was customer service at Walmart, and why he loved that job, I'll never know, because you have to be slightly crazy. But he got a kick out of people coming in mad. Like, he just was like, okay, I can deal with that. But he wanted, he's like, I want to go in tomorrow and talk to him about transferring my job back. And I want to make sure that I don't lose my funding with the tribe, because, he was a Native American, so the tribe is paying for his schooling. And
Right.
so he was still trying to be logical and rational and do the right thing.
In the real world, in the world that involved things with the people that he loved, correct? Like,
Yep.
and I think that's the other part, is there's a part of us when we're suffering that much. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to know when you need to know it, because I've learned the words that I need to tell to you.
I know what to say to make you go away, Mom.
Absolutely.
Yep, 100%. We also had a plan that it was like, if I call or text, you better answer. And he did,
Yeah.
because I left midday Friday. I think I knew. I think my soul knew.
Is that
'Cause it
mother's
had
intuition? Like, I mean, we're
100%.
so that
I
day,
cried the whole way home.
that that day, like, do you remember? I mean, a lot of people can remember. Some people can't when they get the call. Like, do you remember where you're at? Do you remember, like, a
I
lot of people
do
can remember smells, colors, like everything.
everything. So I had gone to see him on Thursday night. We came up with a plan. Friday, he called us as he was leaving Walmart, like FaceTimed us, and he was just giggling and laughing because it was downpouring there, and he was trying to get to his car. And Saturday morning, my husband had his company was doing this big thing in Casper, and so my husband had gotten up early and gone, and I had stayed behind to sleep because the day before had been so rough. And I got up and decided to ride my motorcycle to Casper, and I called him as I was leaving town. And he was okay. And I'm like, "What are you doing today?" He goes, "I'm gonna find somewhere to do laundry, Mom." Okay. So I got to Casper, I don't know, about 1:30, 2 o'clock, and I thought, wonder if I should just check in with him. And I decided I don't want to be a pest. I he is an adult. I'm trying to give him a little space, and so I decided not
Boundaries.
to.
You're trying to establish those adult boundaries.
Right? My daughter has now learned there are no boundaries. Mom's just gonna be in your face.
Yeah.
But so we went to this thing and we were there for a while, and then I texted him about 4 o'clock. I tried calling him, didn't get an answer. We went to the second half of this thing, which was this big dinner, and I felt uneasy the whole time, and I finally just told Sean, like, I need to go back to the hotel. Like, I'm not okay. And I tried calling him, and by that time it had been about 4.5 hours, and he didn't answer again, and I knew. And was going to text the first time. I texted Sean, I called him and I said, I'm going to call the cops in Laramie because James hasn't responded. And so Sean is trying to figure out, how do I get back to here? And at one point, I had us on motorcycles at 10 o'clock at night, going to take the back roads to Laramie. And I'm thinking, how do I get out of this?
Right.
How do I get out of riding my motorcycle at night on the back roads to Laramie where there's
Deer everywhere.
and elk and deer, and like, it's not safe for us. But we were fighting with the officer because the officer wouldn't go in, and he kept telling me, well, I don't have enough information to ping his phone. I'm like, you don't have to ping his phone because I have an iPhone. And guess what, he's
Yeah.
in that apartment.
Yeah.
He's in that apartment. We finally got a hold of his roommate, and they drove like a bat out of hell. They were about an hour and a half away, and they drove as fast as they could to get there. Let him in the apartment, and they couldn't get the bedroom door open, and so they went around to the window, and just Russell called in and was like, "You got to get her right now," and I just confirmed it. We didn't get actually a knock on the door of the hotel until about midnight. So there was 4 hours of me knowing what had happened, but I didn't get confirmation until midnight, 12:30. And but it definitely was Mom. I mean, it definitely was intuition. I just I told Sean, like, he'd have called or he'd have texted because he promised, and he always kept his promises.
Right. Do you feel guilt?
Depends on the day. I'm really lucky to have had that 16 to 24 hours with him.
Right.
Because in that conversation, he made me very aware that he knew how much I loved him and how much Sean loved him and how much Taya loved him. Like, he knew he was loved.
Do you,
And in that,
sorry,
go ahead.
Do you feel that was a goodbye?
I do. I do now. I feel that's exactly what was happening. Because the other thing he said to me was, Mom, I have no regrets.
How hard is that? I mean, you've done this. You've felt it. You've lived it. You've been in it, like surrounded by it. You've been in Montana. It's like we're, I think, number one per capita still. So
Yep.
it's something that we
Wyoming's
all.
not far behind you.
No, it's and especially during this pandemic right now, it's some serious stuff. And if you're not on the ball, like, and you shouldn't have to be. We really shouldn't have to be that way. But the other part of that, and I want to convey this to you, is like there's nothing you could have done. There's nothing you could have said. There's nothing that could have, even if he would have won the most money in the world, he still would have felt the same that he felt. And I think the hardest part is realizing when that rationality goes out and me personally, I sat back and I'm like, I just can't wear these masks anymore. I'm tired of putting them all on. Like, I'm tired. Every time this person, I have to do this. I have to wear this mask for that person. I have to be this person for that person. I have to do this. And I didn't have an identity for the longest time because I had to please people. I felt that. Nobody really put that on me. I just felt that. I took that on. I grabbed that burden somewhere in my life. I don't know where it was exactly, but I grabbed that burden and decided to carry it. And it wasn't mine to carry. I just decided to. And
James did the same thing. He was he referred to himself repeatedly as the good kid. So there was his older brother was in trouble from 12 years old on. I mean, still in trouble. Involved with drugs and alcohol, and no matter what we tried to do, or how we tried to get him out of it, that's the path he's on right now. And it took me 19 years, 7 or 8 years for me to realize that I have to let him go and figure that out for himself, because I can't change that. But James kind of, I think, put a lot of pressure on himself to be like, I'm not going to cause Mom any more heartache. I'm going to be great at whatever I do.
Right.
And he took that good kid label that he put on himself very seriously. And I think I think the thought of failure to him, I just think it was absolutely overwhelming.
Perfectionism, right? Like,
yeah.
If it's not perfect, it's wrong.
Yep.
That's 100%. A really difficult place to be in, especially when you suffer from a mental illness or struggle, because an all or nothing attitude sucks. It's hard.
Yeah, you don't get where you think you're going to get with that, for sure.
So the next question is
I'll be perfect, but it's,
I guess that it took me too long in life. I'm a late bloomer. Like I still, I don't know about you, but you're younger than me. You better be younger than me. I still, than you. Well, we'll just say you're younger. Okay. I can go back to like 20 years. Like, I feel in my mind, like it's just like when they talk about the time that we have here is minuscule in what we have going forth. I get that. Like, I understand that. And I'm fortunate to feel that, because like if I wake up tomorrow, it is just like I woke up when I was 15 hanging out in Broadus, or I can be 18 in Polson. I can be where it just, the vessel changes, but it's
but
the
you're
sharpening.
the same person.
It is in the sharpening of the mental is the hard part. So I guess that's the question: is time really the cure? Is that what it is? I mean, we all have to go. Like the grieving process is messy as it is. Like the anger, the frustration, the sadness, the loneliness, it just spins around every time. Like that's why I kind of want to like when you
I
say
don't think
why,
there.
I'm sure the why questions are a lot less, and the time is the time.
Yeah, I will. I don't. I don't think there is a cure, um, which is awful to say. But
It hurts. It's a void, right?
yeah,
It's something that
I
will
don't.
always be gone.
And it's different. I lost my dad 2016, and it was sudden. And everybody in the world that has known me in my life knows I was a daddy's girl.
Yep.
And so that was heartbreaking and tough. But in some way, you are expecting that of a parent.
You were a daddy's girl because mom ran the house.
She still does. She still does. Don't don't tell her I said that. She may be watching, but
She used to scare
but
the shit out of me, so we're good.
oh my God, she'll love that. She will love that. Yeah, she scared the shit out of a lot of people over my life. So we'll just
Right?
leave it at that. But I don't think there is a cure. I think we learn to cope with it just like we learn to cope with mental illness. I think it just becomes a part of who you are. Like there is this piece of me that is forever broken. And it is what it is.
Right?
And I just have to learn to allow myself. It'll be a year on Monday. And it's actually harder now, I think, as we come up on this.
It's all
Because
the
there are
is it the PT? I mean, is it the PT? I mean, I don't want to overuse the PTSD, but I mean, you're feeling those same feelings. You're coming up to like, holy shit, it's too, almost, in a couple days we would have been in that hotel. Like you start
yes.
replaying those. You're accessing those files. You're pulling those files, and you're experiencing
Yep.
those same feelings over and over and over
All
again.
over again. And you think, you go through the what if and the guilt and the why and the what could I have done differently. And one of the first things I said, texted my boss at 12:30 at night because A, I knew he'd be up, and B, I think it was a Vegas trip, so I was positive he'd be up. But I texted him and I was like, "I'm gonna need some time off. James took his life." One of the first things I said was I should have forced him to come home with me. And his response to that statement, which was, "Oh no, because then he would have done it in your home." Um, there was some really rock hard truth to that.
It's real.
It's absolutely real. And, Shauna and I bought this. We joke about it now because we're empty nesters, but we have this huge home because we had 6 kids between the two of us.
Right.
And so, we had this, and it's a 1919 home, and we've done a lot of work for it, and it's really become our sanctuary. And I discovered last night it was James's sanctuary too, because I found my way into his Snapchat, and it was about this time last year. So it would have been right before all this happened. He had come home and he had snapped a picture of the house at night with the lights on, and he was just like, home, heart, 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 And so it was just like, had that been taken away from me too?
Right.
I don't know that I could get through it, So to still have our sanctuary and a place where there's nothing but good memories, that's so important.
What's your greatest resource in all this? Like, what's been your greatest resource in getting through all of it?
It's God. It's faith. I've always I was raised in a home, and while we didn't go to church, I heard about God all the time. Um, I had, one of my greatest friends from college who just called me the other day, um, and I had a really good laugh because he's adopting. Like they just found out that they're adopting, and I said, that's awesome. But I'm sitting here thinking, I just finished, and you're just getting
Yep.
started.
Yeah. Tell me
That's
about
a
it.
lot of
Like
that,
Timber
that's a
Timber
lot of
has an
fun
eight
for me.
Timber has an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old. So I'm all over
Ooh,
again. Yeah, look at your
yeah.
eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, no, thank you. The grandbaby, I'm all about. Like, I will love and cuddle, and then I will hand back.
Yeah.
But
See
I,
you.
I couldn't go through it again. It just parenting is exhausting. But I mean, faith was just all around me. But I didn't find myself in faith until that moment. And it was the moment we turned around on the motorcycles that the officer convinced Sean to go back to the hotel.
Can you
We were,
do
yeah,
you
go ahead.
it's elevator speech, right? This is how I equate it. Because riding on the Richards bus with Archie and Margie, always, I had to sit right behind them all the time, right?
Hmm.
I just wanted to be the kid in the back of the bus. Like that's all I ever wanted to be was the kid in the back of the bus. I didn't have to worry about shit. So what I equate it to
Yes.
now is mine is, and whatever you're like, I've read every book that you could possibly read on religion. So I get it all. I understand it all. Like I shouldn't say understand it all. I can conceptualize almost all of it. I can get down with it. I get it. Like cool. There's more than one. There's a Prophet Muhammad. Like there's all these. I understand. But when we get down to the meat and potatoes, like James isn't here anymore at all.
Nope.
The other people that have decided to take all that emotional pain and those accessing, and I think that's the difference is you're accessing those files now, whereas people that, in my opinion and my experience, that do actually follow through with the act of committing suicide stay in that accessing of those files, stay in those feelings, and can never stop that. And
Yep.
for me, I think social media breeds that worse than anything else. And excuse my French, I fucking despise it. Like I use
People
it
are
because I have to.
awful.
Like this
Yes.
is where it is one of the most destructive things for somebody's inner
Mental health.
being
Yes.
and their mental health. And it's brutal. Like I don't know how much I don't think it played a whole lot in James, but I think in this younger generation we're seeing it a lot more. And I can't
Absolutely.
imagine how much of a mess I would have been at 10 or 12 trying to get likes on Instagram.
Oh, yeah. Good. Oh, I'm so thankful it wasn't around. Not only I'm really thankful it wasn't around in college and could see all the dumb stuff that I did,
Mhm.
but the pressure that I put on myself as a people pleaser, junior high, elementary, I mean, I remember it all the way back, just like it was such an innate thing in me that people have to like me. And if they don't like me, then something's wrong with me.
Yep.
Um,
I have to change me so you like me.
yes. Yeah. And it wasn't, I mean, MS changed that for me when I
Right.
got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and really dug into what that meant and what I have to do. You know, my neurologist is amazing. One of the first things he said to me was, "It's my job to prevent disability." And I'm like, okay, I'm on board because disabled is not something I think I can do,
Right.
And so I really had to learn to take care of myself. And that had to be learning. I get to say no when I need to say no. Um,
Isn't
and,
that the
and
most
if
difficult to like the
it is
first word we learn as a kid, right?
is
But the
no.
the last word we want to tell somebody when we get over and we're a people pleaser.
Absolutely.
I don't want to disappoint you.
100%.
Don't want to disappoint you.
It it so that diagnosis changed my life because it just became, no, this is what I have to do to be okay. And if you don't like it, then you're not someone that needs to be in my circle. And I was in my 40s when that happened.
So
You know,
my whole thing is change your tribe, change your vibe. Man, that's the thing.
100%.
Like, if you're not happy with where you're at and you don't like the people you're hanging around, like I tell, and I'm honest. Like I am more honest now than I have ever been in my life. And I don't care how old you are. If you're 8, I'll tell you you're a shithead. If you're 88,
Absolutely.
I'll tell you you're a shithead. I don't care who's around or what's going on. I'll tell you you're a shithead because nobody's willing to do that anymore. They're not.
No,
Open the goddamn door for the person that's older than you are and wait. Get the
we
seat for
have,
the next person. Say please and thank you. Say excuse
yes,
me. It's those little things that social media in it sucks because us as parents now, like I don't know what I don't know what to I don't know. Like I mean these kids want to play video games, they want to do all this stuff and the screen time, like I just try to manage it. I just try the best that I can to limit it and know that I'm doing the best that I possibly can. So just for me as a parent, Rana, I don't think there's anything you could have done. Like there's nothing my parents could have done. There's nothing anybody could have ever said to me when I finally got to that point where I continued to access those files continually and I just
yeah.
stayed in that groove of depression and anger. And once I got in that, I created more files that were even more negative and I stayed in that. There was
Hmm.
you know what I really wish? I wish there would have been a time in my life when I was growing up as a kid that somebody would have pulled me aside that had experienced the same thing that I was going through and explained it to me without candy coating it.
Yeah, it's
Like
been
making it,
real.
yeah, like make this is the way it's gonna happen. This is the way life works. It's hard. It sucks. Oh no. No, I don't care. You ask the richest person in the world. They're struggling just as much as we are right now.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's just, it's life. Um, and I think where we need to get two things. One, we talk about social media. The most important thing to know about social media is that all of that happy, perfect life you see,
It's not.
that's one section of their life. They're still going through all of the same shit the rest of us are going through, which is one of the reasons why I'm post freely about my grief, because I think it's important for people to know, like, it
Yeah.
comes and it stays and you've got to go through it or you're going to get stuck. And so we have to have conversations about social media and how what we see is only one part of the story. The second piece of that is I think we have to get to the place as a society where mental health or mental illness of some kind it's not abnormal. Our society right now has it set up so that people think it's abnormal, but I know more people with a mental illness at some point in their life than I ever have of someone who
Yeah.
doesn't have it. It's just
And I think the
it's a
other part of it
part of
too,
us.
it's how you grow up.
Mhm.
It's really how you grow up. It's your I mean, yeah, we're a product of our parents. Yes, James was adopted, but I can guarantee you he established a lot of mannerisms that were his
So he
parents.
was me.
Yeah. It
He
just
was me.
it happens. And when we talk about suicide and we talk about when that goes away, when that person's gone, I think that's what I try to relate to people that I talk to is the vessel's gone, but I can
Yes.
guarantee you, like I'm 45, but I feel 18. That time frame is nothing. It's just like it's
It was
it's
yesterday.
89 and we're just talking again. The only difference is you're over there, I'm over here. It's like nothing has changed, and
Absolutely.
that is what I'm trying. I don't know how to explain that unless you actually experience it or are able to go through things, and I think that's the land of misfit toys. I think that's why we're here is to try and figure that out. And
Yep.
the last thing I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna broach this, and I don't care if I piss people off, but I yes, there's a heaven. Yes, there's places. I really feel like we're gonna go someplace else. So when somebody chooses to take their own life, I'm not gonna categorize them as a certain religion does, as they're automatically here or they're automatically there or they're here or they're that, because that's very closed minded. I think that's very
Mhm.
irrational, and I think the rational thinking behind that is void of any evidence. So when I talk about them being gone, it's a physical thing for me. I really think that we have guides,
100%.
we have angels, we have people that we're in purgatory. We're stuck with we're just fucked up. All of us are. At some point in time, we just are.
Absolutely.
whether
Everybody. And that's everybody. I don't know anyone who either isn't or hasn't been at some point in their life.
Yeah, I don't care if you have
Everybody.
$500 million and you're worried about getting your goddamn pill bugs out of your pool. That's what's pissing you off today. You have all this money, but the pill bugs are bothering you. It's not that you have a mental illness. That's how I try to equate this, is that people pick and choose what bothers them. The difference is when we can look at it in a way where we stop accessing those files like you're about to go through in the next couple of days and stop associating those feelings with the event, is really when I think the change happens.
Absolutely.
And I don't know what else to say other than I'm super proud of you. And like, I could not have, like, this was spur of the moment. This is one of those things where you feel that, like, that pull, and it'd been long enough. Like, I literally sent that message, you responded, and I put this all together.
Yeah.
And I just want to see, look at this guy. I'm just going to take a second. I fucking love you, Eric Graff.
Amen, Eric Graff. Me too.
I mean, it just, we never know when or where. And I, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for, one, taking the time to hang out with me, and two,
it feels like 1989. How scary is that? Nothing's changed. We're just a little older.
Yeah. We got like a couple minutes left. We've been talking for an hour. Like, talk to me about where. Oh, this hurt. This is gonna suck. Look at this.
Oh wow.
So, like, now that this has happened, where are you moving with this? What is your plan moving forward in all of this?
So I have, from the moment it happened, it's been in my head that I'll change this decision for somebody, and I don't care if it's just one person. But what I want to do is more of what you and I did tonight.
Right.
I want, I'm starting to look into starting up a nonprofit and finding ways to do things like this, whether it's online, whether it's in person, whether it's talking at at the high school. But that's my goal, is like, let's talk about this. Let's stop acting like it's something that needs to be shoved to the corner.
Stop acting like kids don't think about killing themselves because they didn't get 100 likes on their Instagram post, and little Jenny did because she was wearing the same t-shirt. Like, don't kid yourself, and don't think that's how it happened, because it is.
It is 100%. It is. And I mean, I tried really hard to tell James, like, the stuff that's happening in your life now just isn't gonna matter.
We don't listen to that shit when we're that age, right? Our parents did that. We're our parents now.
Right. But I mean, think about 1989 and breaking up with so and so. And
Shannon said your hair isn't 1989 anymore.
Thank you. Shannon has probably got my sophomore yearbook somewhere where it's like sticks it. You can't even see the top of my hair because it was so crazy. But we just gotta. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep talking. And I don't know if it's gonna be online or in person, but I'm gonna keep talking.
Here's what I'll put out to everybody that's watched this live so far, and there's been a lot, like that's almost cool. 50 that are kind of hanging out with us tonight, and that's huge, especially for.
That's huge.
Yeah. So what I'm challenging everybody tonight that's watching this is, I know you have suffered with, or somebody has suffered with, somebody that's taken their life, and that's really what this is about, is mental health and suicide. So like, I think Ronna and I are going to continue to do this. It's going to be either her or me. Like, we're just going to do this, and we're going to help tell people stories, and there's going to be some really cool stories come out of this, and I'm more excited now than I was when I was moved to message you.
I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you did, because I've been, like I said, from the moment it happened, I'm like, okay, I've got to do something. And I just didn't know how, or didn't know when, or didn't know what. And your message was like, okay, it's time.
And I think that's the push, right? Do you feel like that's the push that some people need, is just that, okay, if I can do this, I can begin to talk more about it and start to maybe change some things.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, stick around. I'm going to say goodbye real quick to everybody. Do you want to say goodbye to everybody real quick?
Yeah, hearing that there's been about 50 people hanging out with us is amazing. The love that you've shown for me, for my family, the love that you've shown for Josh, that's what we got to do to start changing things. So just thank you.
Just legit be kind and give a shit, right?
Absolutely. It does not take much. It really doesn't.
Hey guys, thanks for watching Ronna and I. You can follow me on the Twitterville if you ever want to. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff out there, but we actually have a Twitter out there. It's called @RationalSuicide. So there's actually a Twitter account out there that we'll have access to. And really what will be is just probably a daily affirmation of, love yourself before you decide to love somebody else, because if you don't, you're not going to know what to do. There
is a group, Sean and I did start a group on Facebook. It's called James the Pug. Positive something.
I am a member of that, by the way.
Nice. Positive support through love. You do have to request for right now, just because we want to make sure that it's about just a positive something every day. Like we don't want any BS. But request, and by all means, we will add you.
You can say bullshit. We're not censored here, and if they don't like it, they can get out. That's how I roll.
I'm trying to be a good kid. Here's me being a people pleaser again. It sneaks every once in a while. Good kid doesn't happen anymore.
You get this is how controversy creates cash. So that's what you got to do, is piss some people off, and it'll happen. Work for me.
Absolutely. I piss people off daily, so I'm sure I can jump right in.
Hey guys, thanks for watching our premiere episode. There will be many more to come, and please share the message. You guys, please share this as much as you can. Please share the announcements coming on. We'll have the Twitterverse up. We'll probably have pages, some stuff up as well. But thanks for taking the time, Ronna. And
thank you. You started something. You might regret it, but you started something.
Let's just put this on a list of things that I regret, because that's a huge list.
I love it.
Bye, everybody.